Hello and welcome. I am Scrabberlock, and this is City of Heroes with our tanker, Liberty Lass. And Liberty Lass is doing. I sort of remembered because it had been a while. The last time I played it had been a while since I had played her, and I was ignoring this or hadn't really paid attention to this contact in the Hollows. So we're like sort of in the middle of the Hollows with this mystic guy, and we're gonna get some missions from him because hopefully he will give us a story arc. I hope. He says he's watched our exploits in the Hollows for quite some time. Yes, I know everything that goes on in the Hollows, almost everything that is. I have not yet been able to locate the mighty gateway that calls to all of magic blood, but rest assured I will. The only thing standing in my way is this cursed infestation of evildoers. Will you defeat some? So we're going to defeat 10 trolls. You guys know how I love street sweeping. Alright, so we're going to find some trolls and just beat up on them. There's a troll. A bunch of trolls, right? Okay. Simple enough. Oops. And we got to turn on our toggles, which I forgot. That was stupid. Alright, so we're going to start out by beating up trolls, and then we'll get, hopefully, another mission. Now, these guys are going to have absolutely no power to do anything to me. I have 45% resistance. And, so, you know, it's interesting, but before enhancement diversification, so let me explain what that is. When you put enhancements on your bar, and we've talked about this a little bit, basically 100% bonus is an asymptote. So with trainers, you could put 6 trainers on, and they'll be 7.5% each, and so that's like, what, 50%? 45% if you have them all on. With this, we've slotted 4, we're at 73%, which is 18 times 4, just about, right? In fact, exactly. So you can do slotting of 6 DOs, 6 trainers, but you can't, if you slot more than 3 SOs, it doesn't help you because you're sort of capped at 100% bonus. And that's with things like strength, like damage or accuracy or recharge. With defenses, they're half as much, right? So a defensive SO, or not, about half as much. So a defensive SO is like a what is it, 20% bonus to for each slot. So if we 3 slot resist physical damage, right, we can get 20, 40, 60, about plus 60%, right? And resist physical damage does 10%, so 10 plus 60 is 16%. So it used to be that there was no limitation like that, that if you 6 slotted it, you could basically, so what you could do is you could 5 slot it and get it to 100% that way. So what people would do is you could 5 slot this, that would get it to 20%. You could 5 slot this, that would get it to plus 60%, right? 20 plus 60, right, would get you to 80%. So if you 6 slotted it, you'd get close to 95%, which is the cap. And then when enhancement diversification came, that made that not possible anymore. They didn't want you to be, just by turning on your toggles, to be at the cap, right? Because they thought that was too much. Now, this is a large group of trolls, but we're a tanker. We have a lot of hit points. We have Dull Pain, and we're invulnerable to what the 45% resistance to the damage they do. Now, with this many of them, we are going to probably need Dull Pain, but they're going to have a really hard time hurting me compared to what they used to do, right? So let's go ahead and Dull Pain. We're going to hit this too. That'll raise our resistances even higher. Now you can see we're expending a lot of endurance here, because we have to do a lot of attacks to take these guys out. But this isn't so bad, and we'll have them pretty much beaten. Now that once there's only 3 of them, they're going to have no chance of overcoming our invulnerability, even if we hadn't used the sturdy. see. These guys have no chance. And we're going to have to only beat one more after we're done with this spawn. Do a little extra damage. That'll help us defeat them more quickly. So if you've been watching my Scrapper playthrough, or just conceptually, right, you know that I'm always after luck, and once I had 5 of these, I was running, once I had like 3 rows, I was running with like 2 columns of luck. So 6 luck, 3 heal, 3 endurance, and then, you know, 2 accuracies and a damage, or 3 accuracies. With this character, we're going to want to run with more damage. And that's because she doesn't do as much damage as a tanker, and we really aren't going to need luck, as much luck. So we're going to have 1 column of either luck or sturdy, 1 column of heals, 1 column of endurance, 1 column of damage, and maybe a little more, like 3 and 1, and then 2 accuracies or something like that, because we want to try to do more damage for her. Is he by himself? No, there's a bunch of them, and I don't want to deal with oranges just to do the last one. If I had to defeat 3, I would go ahead, but we only have 1 guy that we have to defeat, so let's just do something quick and easy. I haven't even aggroed these. Oh, there they are. Now they're aggroing to me. So if you've been watching the other playthrough, you can definitely see that tankers do play a little differently. But I've also tried to make sure to take attack powers for this character so that we can play relatively aggressively, and we don't have to just sit here and kind of like wait for them to die from little jabs and punches. We're doing some pretty good damage. And the DOs that we have on our power help us, right? And if you look at our influence, we're fine on that. We have 1.2 million. And with this character, I think I'm going to probably stick with a lot of single origins for her. I just don't know if I'm going to bother with the inventions. I'll just craft the ones that drop, but I'm not going to buy ones that didn't drop for me. I just don't know that it's worth it. Okay, so here we go. We talked to the Mystic. And he says, "Excellent. The trolls have felt your might, and they have become afraid. Liberty lasts. I believe you can do great things for the Hollows. I'm sure I will have need of you again shortly." So now we get the final, I think this is the final story arc of the Hollows. The Heart of the Hollows. If you are willing to help, I have urgent work for you. Trolls have been using a pair of local caves as storehouses for Superidine shipment. If you could infiltrate their warrens and destroy their Superidine, it would put a crimp in their plans. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And that mission is here. And so now we're on 2 story arcs, right? Because we have the story arc from Athena Curry, which is about the clockworks. And now we have the story arc from this guy. And I wanted to make sure to get on it because I thought it was level 14 or 15, where it was, I think 14 is the last level you can take it. So I wanted to make sure we went ahead and took it so we can do it. I haven't done this set of story arcs with my Scrapper, so I want to get these done. I don't mind if I miss some of the ones with this character that I've already done with my Scrapper, but I don't want to miss the ones that I haven't done. So this character is going to do Croatoa, for example, and some of the other stuff, just so that I can get a varied experience, and between the 2 characters experience all or nearly all of the regular story arcs in the game. Alright, so now we're in a cave network. And we got some trolleys. And there's their Superidine. So we have 4 Superidine stashes to destroy. And this we're going to have to click on and punch. I really wish they would let you just click and interact. Oh, and we've aggroed the whole group. That's fine. We have our dull pain back. I do wish I had an area effect, but that will come in later levels. We can't get it yet. So one of the things I do want to talk about, I may address this in my Scrapper videos as well, is this concept of damage per second and contributing, say, to the group, and whether you're doing quote-unquote enough DPS on your team. Obviously, a tanker, people would be worried more about the damage you're taking rather than the damage you're giving. But there's now some stats programs, third-party programs that you can run, kind of, that essentially, how do I say this? They act as non-malicious spyware on the game. You run them, and they're basically recording the chat log, and I don't know how it works with, I guess, because what happens is you can, in combat, you can see what everybody hits and how much damage everybody's doing, right in here. And in the hit rolls, let's move this over here, and move this over here, and move this over here. Try to reorganize where I want things. Come here. I don't know why it doesn't want to do that. But you can, between this and this, you can figure out how much damage each character, I guess, is doing. And so what it does is it logs the chat window, records what's coming in the chat. And, I mean, it can do things like tell you how much experience per minute you're gaining and stuff like that, but also it can compare what each character is doing from the logs, and it can tell you how much damage each character in the group, if you're in a group, it can tell you how much damage each character in the group is doing. And, so my supergroup, somebody in my supergroup just posted the link to this, and, you know, just said, you know, if you want to use it. Now, a lot of people use it for their own information, right? They record it in their own missions to see what they're doing, and maybe they've got, you know, how you can do multiple builds, and I've shown that in the Scrapper video. Maybe they're looking at 2 different builds, and they're trying to see which build does the higher amount of damage per second, so they can figure out which one they want to use when they want DPS, and which one they want to use when they're trying to tank or something. And that's all fine. It's not something that I would bother with, but if you want to do that, yeah, that's fine. But as she pointed out, one of the reasons a lot of casual players hate these things, right? They have them. World of Warcraft has plugins that you can use that for, and a lot of other MMOs also have it. This is not something that was common when City of Heroes first was live, and so they didn't have any of these features in the game itself. And again, it's a third-party software somebody else created. But one of the things that Vakarain, who's like sort of the co-leader of my guild, pointed out, and she's the one who said she likes it, right? But she said you do have to be careful, because what'll happen is casual players hate it, because what happens is you're a casual player, and let's say all you've got are SOs on your powers at level 45, and you don't have any of the bonuses from inventions, and so you're not doing the kind of hardcore damage that somebody with all of these enhancement sets could do. There will be players who will kick you from their team because you're not, as a healer, healing enough damage, or you're not, as a tanker, taking enough damage, or you're not, as a scrapper, doing enough damage. And so a lot of this is going to be a tough spawn, but we're alright. We got heals and we can do a little bit more damage. And so the idea is, what concerns casual players, or even players like me, who, I don't know if you want to call me casual, but I have my own way of enjoying the game, is that if you're not playing, if you're not sort of holding up what they consider to be your end of things, then they will kick you out of their team, right? You're not doing enough damage, you're not healing enough, whatever it happens to be, and so we're going to kick you off. And so that is a concern, and it's one of the things that I actually don't like. I don't like programs like that for that reason. The thing is, as I pointed out in City of Heroes, like, you literally can't play it wrong. You literally cannot. There is no right or wrong way to play it. What I'm doing here, where I'm focusing a little bit more on the offensive powers for my character, and then the defensive powers are coming in a little later, is an entirely valid way to play. After all, I'm not cheating, right? I'm taking the powers that I'm choosing. You cannot take every power available to you from this list, right? These two are also available. Taunt is also available. You cannot take every single power available, and it's your call as a player when you take which primary and secondary, and nobody should have the right to second guess that. So my feeling is, it's fine if you want to use it, but I don't like it when people use it as a weapon. And fortunately, the actual leader of the supergroup, Nina Nightcraft, said, look, if people want to use it, it's fine. But I better not hear of people on this supergroup denying low-level members of the group a position on a task force because they're not doing enough DPS. That's not acceptable, and I agree with her. To me, a guild like this is a group of friends, right? A supergroup is a group of friends, and this character's not on a supergroup, but a supergroup is a group of friends. And ask yourself, just for real-life friends, people you've known your whole life, would you kick that person that you've known for 10 years and you grew up with off of a team because they weren't doing enough DPS and stop playing with them? Of course you wouldn't, right? So if you wouldn't do that to a real-life friend, to me, you shouldn't be doing it to your guild mates. Now, if you're talking about pickup groups, these things that happen in this LFG chat over here where people are just finding groups to do sewer runs, fine, do whatever you want. I don't play those anyway, so I don't care. My issue is if my own guild mates say to me, you're not doing enough DPS as a scrapper, or you're not holding enough aggro as a tanker, we're kicking you off the team. Now, if I'm getting the team repeatedly killed because I'm an idiot, that's different. But if the team's going through missions and nobody's dying and we're getting our missions accomplished, like, who cares exactly how much DPS my character is doing? Right? That really shouldn't be something that friends who are playing together would worry about. Right? Unless there is some mutual agreement among the friends. Like, I have a really good friend that I played this with. I actually recorded some video playing with him, playing one or two of his characters, but I decided not to post that stuff because in some of the video he was much rustier than I was, and I thought it might be embarrassing to him to have that posted because he screwed up a little bit. And I don't mind. I've screwed up a lot and had that. I posted it, and I don't care. It doesn't embarrass me. You make a mistake, you make a mistake. But I didn't think he would want his, first few minutes in the game relived. Because after all, even my Scrapper video, which is the first stuff, it was like the 5th time I went through the tutorial before I actually recorded that, because I had recorded it a bunch of other times with, like, made mistakes where I was, and there's the boss we want over here. I had made some mistakes where I didn't record the sound correctly or what have you. And so, my most embarrassing moments I recorded and I was going to post, but then because I screwed it up, I couldn't post them. So I don't actually have my most embarrassing moments where I was totally new to the game and, didn't even remember how to play. That didn't get saved. And so I don't want to show that moment for somebody else. But he's a really good friend of mine, and I could easily see the two of us. Let's click this, Chloe. I could easily see the two of us deciding together, let's try to max out our DPS and let's put the DPS meter on it. And that's fine if you've decided to do that. But the idea that I would start playing with him, record his DPS as a blaster, say, hey, I'm doing more DPS as a tanker than you're doing as a blaster, get off my team. I can't imagine doing that to him. We've been friends since we were 10 years old. 5th grade we met, and that was many, many years ago. He's the one who taught me how to play D&D, because he had been playing it a little longer than I had, like months longer, couple months, right? So we've now both played it for many years, but he's the one who taught me to be a role player. He's the one who taught me, how these sorts of games work. He's the one who got me started on this game. He heard about it, and before it was in beta, he was invited to the closed beta before, like a month before I was, and so he has actually more experience at this game than I do, or at least he did initially. And so, and I'm going to take him and say, okay, because you kind of don't build your character the way I do, and you don't max your DPS, I'm going to throw you off my team. No, I don't believe in that. And so, Yeah, I don't really like. One of the things I don't like about these meters is that it sort of encourages people to build everything the same way, right? Like if you don't build your character, and the same thing with these external programs that calculate every little bit of data. And I'll look at the clues when we head out. Um, these things to me encourage sameness. They encourage homogenization of builds. Like there's a right way now to build an invulnerability tanker, and if I don't slot it the same way as everybody else, if I don't choose the same enhancement sets as everybody else, if I dare to say at level 50, well, I only use SOs because I don't want to bother with inventions, most players would say I'm playing wrong, and I simply don't agree with that. I don't think you're playing wrong to play it your way as long as you can complete your missions, and I've done that. This character's died once so far to a very powerful ambush that I wasn't ready for, but other than that, she's doing her missions just fine. So let's look at the clues. This clue just says Aga means hour. I am sure of it. Day by day, I understand these minions of Igneous more intimately. They will not leave my dreams. So we still have this Igneous character who's probably going to be the guy we fight at the very end of this series of story arcs, or he might be in a task force. Sometimes the capper to these storylines, like the Clockwork King, is actually locked behind a task force, and you have to do the Positron task force or the Synapse task force or something to actually see the ending. That requires a team, and I just haven't really gotten into doing that yet. And certainly not with this character. But maybe I will at some point. Alright, so you have this guard board. He's a lieutenant. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this whole idea of these external programs that provide all the numbers and allow you to min-max. Like, if you want to min-max, that's fine. I don't have any objection to people doing it. What I object to is that a lot of the people who do it will, like, literally tell you that you're min-maxing wrong. I actually had somebody on my supergroup essentially, I mean, she didn't say it in so many words, but she essentially implied that I was wrong for playing a scrapper instead of a stalker. She argues that even if you don't want to use hide and placate, because of the way crits work, they're less random for stalkers, and you can kind of rely on them a little better and set them up, that stalkers technically can do everything a scrapper can do and slightly better, so you may as well just play a stalker when there's no reason to play a scrapper. Like, you're going to basically criticize my whole entire archetype now, not just my build, and tell me I'm playing an invalid archetype. That's like me saying, well, if you're going to play controller, you may as well play a dominator because dominators are better. No, they're not. They're better if you want to do your own personal damage, but dominators can't do the heals that control and buffs that controllers can do in their secondary. So it depends on what you want to play. There isn't a right way to play this game, and that's why what I keep saying. There's so many ways to play, and as long as people are willing to recognize that and say you can play it however you want, and we're not going to criticize and we're not going to kick you off the team, that's fine. But when they start saying, you know, when your own supergroup mates say things like that they don't want you on their team because you're not doing enough DPS, and that hasn't happened, but people do that, and that's the part that I don't like. So anyway, that's my rant about DPS meters and why I don't like them. It's very clear to me that I don't play this game the way the majority of the people I know and even the people on my supergroup play it, because, you know, a lot of them are talking about how to farm experience, how to farm influence. A couple times you could even see in the Daybreak channel on my other character, if you're watching in the video, they're actually talking about how to do things like farming missions for experience. And the one person was even saying things like, oh, if you want, you can group up with me and sit at the mission door and I'll farm the mission for you so you can level up really fast. I do not like to play that way. Now again, I'm not saying they're wrong. What I'm actually saying is I feel like I must be weird as a City of Heroes player, because so many of the people that I know, not just in my supergroup, but just in the various discords, are always talking about and trying to find ways to farm and increase their XP gain and sort of almost like try to get around playing the game, at least until they're level 50. And it's like, to me, this part, the journey, is what I like, right? This is why I'm playing the game. I don't want to just get to level 50 right away. Whoops, I don't want to hit that thing. Okay, so we're going to need some sturdy here. That'll help. Yeah, these are pretty tough spawns for low-level characters to have to face. Do another sturdy. Fortunately, they're doing smashing and lethal. If I didn't have that defense, I'd be in big trouble. As we wear these guys down, we'll be okay. Let's go ahead and do more damage. But this is like 2 lieutenants, along with like, what, 3, 4 minions? Pretty brutal. Gotta get this guy down. If we can get it down to 1, we'll be alright. Okay, but they're doing a lot of damage to me. They're heavily smashing resistance, which is the other problem. But we should be alright. And you can see I'm not panicking as our health gets into the red, because we do have a huge amount of resistance to these guys. Even now that our sturdy has faded, we still have almost 50% resistance. It's going to be very close, but I think we got him. Got him. Alright, so now I gotta rest. And these are the last 2 stashes, so we shouldn't see 2 spawns that close to each other. Personally, for a level 13 mission, I think this is silly. You got this whole cave, you're telling me they couldn't place one of the boxes over here or over here so that a person coming in here could pull or something, and you don't get 3 or 4 minions and 2 lieutenants stomping at you, plus 1 stomping at you at once. It's pretty rough. I mean, my level 35 scrapper can handle it easily, but at level 13 I probably would have been killed if I had done this mission with her. Alright, so we gotta finish this thing and then move on to the boss, right? Destroying the last stash. Okay, and now we need to... So there's something over here, it looks like. Seek clues. Oh, I did not mean to get that close. Alright, well. So there's a clue over there. You can see it glowing in the distance, right there. You can see how much more quickly Dull Pain is coming back for us now. With the 4 DO rechargers on us, it comes back in 3.5 minutes. Eventually we're going to try to get that thing down to about 3 minutes. We're very close to level 14. We may get that by the end of this mission or shortly after. But we're going to stop right after this mission because this episode's been long enough. Is that another boss? There's another boss. Clue found. So this says, page from Sam Wincott's diary, they're moving me again tomorrow to another slave camp. I don't know why they've singled me out. Maybe it's the tension, but my dreams are getting stranger now. I have deciphered another word from the strange language, Galapo, which is the name of their species. Alright, so let's take these guys out. We're going to conserve Dull Pain if we can, because we don't have any inspirations to use against the boss. Hopefully we'll get a couple more from these guys, but maybe not. Yep, we got one. And it's a good one, it's luck. So that'll help us against the boss. But with Dull Pain, and being a tanker and 45% resistant to the boss, we should be okay. Got another enhancement that we probably don't need because we're only doing DOs now. Alright. Let's take this guy out. Oh, he's going to be hard to hit because he's stone defense. So we're going to use an accuracy. Let's go ahead and use a sturdy on him. Yep, see, hard to hit. Yep, deflection, deflection. Now, if I were using a scrapper, I'd probably double up on the accuracies to make sure I hit. But a scrapper could get him down in the time it takes for one of these, the minute it takes for one of these to fade. I'm not sure the tanker can do that. So I want to make sure that we have the extra one just in case he's still up after this fades. But we've got him, no problem. You can see the dull pain helps an awful lot. And we completed the mission. Wow, a lot of rewards. And we can head out. And now we want to return to our contact. Actually, we can call our contact, but I'm going to return there because he's right here, and I want to sell some stuff like the enhancements. And I think we can do that at his store, which will make it very easy. And we're going to end the episode, so I'm going to stop right here so that I don't have to go all over the place. So let's stop here. And go to the store. We don't need any of these recipes. Anything that's below level 25 I don't need. There we go. And now... Okay, so we finished this, and now in the story arc we have nothing on the clues. Huh? Are we not still on his story arc? We are. All right, so we're going to continue this next time. I'm going to stand over here. These NPCs will defend you against anything that gets dragged over here. And so the idea is just in case, as I'm logging in, somebody has dragged something over here, the NPCs will defend me. I'm going to go ahead and log out, and I'll see you guys next time. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to end the video here, but I will go stop in the hospital.